I also want to invite up, we're going to have a little discussion now about Alice, so I want to invite up to these chairs next to me here, Taryn Duffy, last year's winner. I'd like to invite Michelle Nicholas up here to join me, Jan Fisher, and Ali Frederico. And while they're coming up to take their seats, I just want to give another shout out to Mary Calvi for taking the morning off from WCBS TV to be with us today. That's incredible, Mary. And I love these love letters that we all have on our chairs. This is an actual love letter that was written by Theodore Roosevelt to Alice with a beautiful bookmark. And it's so generous of you to donate today's sales, Mary, of your new book, Outside, to the United Way. So please, before you leave today, a great Valentine's Day gift for the special person in your life. I just want to give a quote that Margaret Mead, talk about a woman of distinction, gave. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. And I see this room today of these committed people, the committed members of the board of directors of the United Way of Westchester, and I know that we can eradicate Alice and address it today. So we have this distinguished group of people seated next to me who have already met, and I want to just ask you a couple of questions. You have microphones there. And the first question I'm just going to direct generally to Taryn, Michelle, to you, Ali, Jan, if you'd like to comment, but unexpected circumstances can have on an individual or a family an impact that is so dramatic, and that's what we're here to talk about with Alice today. I know that Ali, Taryn, and Michelle, you've all experienced this to some degree in your lives, and as someone who has lived it, what is something you wished you had available to you when you were experiencing it?
Hi. For me, and I was young, I guess we just didn't realize that there were resources out there that could have helped us, in some instances, whether it be, with regard to rent or additional, services, or even help with, education cost. And even something as simple as, helping my parents to learn the language.
Yeah.
That would have been really terrific. So I think it's, again, for many communities, it's exposure, access, and knowing what resources are available.
Taryn, Michelle?
Pass it down to me. As an immigrant, it is information, community, and definitely access. Recognizing that when you sometimes come to a different country, you don't know, you don't have the opportunity, and you may not have the community that you're accustomed to. And being able to really kind of be oriented and know that there are resources, like Ali said, about rent, childcare. I learned about childcare resources when my son almost didn't need it anymore. And Lord knows, I wish I had known it way before then.
Childcare, yeah, super important. Taryn?
I really wish I made notes and prepared for this conversation. I'm like, oh boy, anything can come out of my mouth at this point. First of all, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here, but really sad to be here to talk about this topic, to be honest with you. I am not an immigrant. I don't think anybody will be surprised by that. I came from a very middle-class upbringing. My father was a stagehand, my mother was a rockette, and then opened a dance studio. And I think they would have been horrified to know where I had landed. I kept it a great secret. I was incredibly poor, and I had gotten pregnant and married, so I didn't pursue the law degree that I wanted. And I found myself in a very violent marriage thanks to very many factors and some PTSD from the first Gulf War. And there I was. I don't
You
know.
were Alice. You were.
I was, and I was struggling. And what did I need? Information, opportunity, and I had privilege to lean on. Like, let's not negate that factor. But damn, it was hard.
Mm-hmm. I bet. And how did you finally achieve financial stability in your life?
The grace of God. I'm going to be honest. Jean Chatsky, can you raise your hand, please? Okay. Yeah. So Jean has probably been in the financial industry for, I don't know, decades. And there's this magical thing where people, they study something for years and years and years, and they develop an expertise, and then they write it all down in the form of a book, and you get to read it. I glommed on to information anywhere I could get it when I figured out that there was a different way. I worked in law firms around people who had money. I went into politics and people had money. And I'm like, how does this work? How did you get here? How do I do this better? And then as I learned it, I did things differently, figuring out that if I pass up on the small things, which, by the way, when you're earning $30,000 a year, which I did the math last night, like, how poor was I? It was $15 an hour. So
Yeah, that's a good point, and a great transition, because Jan, I have a question for you. The minimum wage in Westchester is now $15 per hour. I know that Feeding Westchester and United Way recently committed to not having employees work for less than $20 an hour. However, while many nonprofits are working to help the Alice population, some of the nonprofit workers are Alice themselves because of budgeting constraints put on organizations by government contractors, grantors, and donors that require their funds go directly to program expenses and not to salaries. So how do we combat those government and donor perceptions so our employees can earn a decent living?
Well, I did prepare for this question because I needed to, and because I'm not nearly as good off the cuff as Taryn is. So I do want to start by saying that here in Westchester, we have incredible relationships with our government partners at all levels and with our funders and local foundations. They are truly partners, and they understand and are working with us to resolve the issues that Elizabeth brought forward. So I need to frame it in that way. It is simply a falsehood to make a distinction between nonprofit programs and salaried staff. There are no programs without nonprofit professionals and essential workers to deliver them. They are the lifeblood of our community, and they are the lifeblood of our nonprofits. It is true that too many in the nonprofit workforce, those who cared for our families in nursing homes, provided virtual programs for our children, and in-person childcare for hospital workers during the pandemic, suffer many of the same indignities as the people they serve. Some are living in homeless shelters, at least partially, because of unfair and misguided caps on wages. These people are 80% women and over 50% people of color, and they were deemed essential during the pandemic. They are still essential. The onus should not be on government and foundations alone. Nonprofit professionals, CEOs, fundraising professionals, and others must stand up and be a force for change and to solve the problem. We must dismantle systems of philanthropy and funding as usual, which is donor-centered rather than community-centered. We simply can't continue as a sector to bow to the wishes of donors if they don't truly move our society forward. We must let funders know what we need and not try to appease and conform to systems that harm our workforce and ultimately the people we serve. We must do this collaboratively and not competitively. And all of you in this room can be part of that force for good. And I hope that you will be.
Excellent. Thank you, Jan. So So inspirational. You certainly were prepared for that answer. I have a question for you, Allie. As a proponent of entrepreneurship and economic development in Westchester County, especially for the Hispanic community, what benefits does small business ownership have for Alice individuals? And I might add, is entrepreneurship the right choice for everyone?
Thanks, Liz. And being an entrepreneur or an owner is not necessarily for everyone, and there are steps that you will be able to discover if you are, and we'll go through that. But yes, I'm a big proponent of economic development and small business. It's really the backbone of our community, and in the last 25 years, 2 out of every 3 jobs were created by small business. And Hispanic business, especially Latina businesses, are the fastest growing, along with Black women-owned businesses. Interestingly enough, and I did prepare a little bit myself too.
All leaders.
In looking at what it meant to be an Alice individual, a low-wage earner, not necessarily have stability because you could be laid off. Not having an opportunity to necessarily have flexibility with regard to childcare, paid leave, health care, or retirement. Also found that in the last, 2-3 years with COVID, disseminated a lot of our small business, but primarily impacted the low-wage earners and earners of color that were the first to not have employment. Mm-hmm. And that actually precipitated the entrepreneurship and startup of small business that I learned that nearly 47% of businesses started by women in the past year are minority owned.
Interesting.
Which I didn't realize it was that high.
That's great.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
And again, these were women that carried the bulk of the financial responsibility for their families. And they did it, for a couple of reasons. Some were holding 9-to-5 jobs, and it represented a chance for independence, to be their own boss. And for millions of moms, it offered the opportunity for benefits, health insurance, sick leave, and again, control of their own schedules. I do want to say that owning your own business is an alternative. It's an option to increasing your income stream. Gives you more flexibility with saving for retirement. As a business owner, you also can create assets and generational wealth for your families. Again, not everyone has it in them, the passion, the drive, but also the tools or the knowledge to start a small business. And that's why it's so important in this community, because we have a lot of specialists in the room and within our community that we can refer someone that maybe just has an idea that is struggling right now, but that entrepreneurship might be something for them, or it could be something that they do, maybe not full-time right away, but part-time to supplement their income. But certainly, organizations such as WETC, what can help our women entrepreneurs understand what is needed, how to guide them. Do you have your business plan? Does someone want your product? Financially, are you ready for the capital that you need? How you fund it? Do you have 6 to 12 months worth? Do you have your team, your CPA, your banker, your lawyer, the folks that can guide you, the SCORES, the SBA, the Chambers of Commerce? And I'm going to give a big plug to our folks at Westchester Economic Development and Catalyst and Launch 1000. That over the last several months has really graduated folks that had an idea and needed the guidance to take their business to the next level and then also help fund it.
Yes.
We had an event last week for the chamber, Hispanic Chamber, where I met a young lady, very impressive, who currently works in a hospital, but she had this idea to be an interior designer. And she called the Small Business Administration. They actually referred her to this program that we have here right in the county. She went through the program, a rigorous program, but she said, I didn't know what I didn't know. Mm-hmm. And it took her through the ABCs. She graduated. She got some seed money to start her business. I just got her card the other night. She's an interior designer. And so, yes, it's an opportunity for folks to have income, a new income stream, provide flexibility for their family, provide some things that they currently don't have, childcare, retirement, paid leave, asset, be their own boss. But you have to have the passion, you have to have the guidance in order to be successful.
What a great success story, though, that you just shared. That's fabulous. And now I'm going to turn to you, Michelle, because as we heard before, 71% of single female-headed households with children are considered Alice and living in poverty. And we also know that African American, Black, or Hispanic households are more than 50% likely to be so. So with intersectionality, that means that more than 75% of households led by single women of color are indeed Alice. What can we do as a community to help these women become more financially stable?
First of all, you're here. Thank you. But let this not be the start and the end. We need fairness. We need respect. We need equity. When Tom was speaking in the beginning, he gave numbers. When we were just hearing details, we heard numbers as well. Jan shared some as well, a lot. Tom shared, I think it was 30,000 for family of 4. I think that was it, 25, family of 4. I want you to think about that for a second. Family of 4, $25,000. Who can survive on that? If you're making $15 an hour part-time, how much money are you making every week? If you're doing it for full-time, 8 hours, how much money are you making every week? In order for us to be able to survive, and I speak to you as a mother, I speak to you as an immigrant, I speak to you as a Black woman. If we are to survive, we need the support of the community. We need the fairness, the respect, the equity. Open the doors. Kick it in. Think about it. How many of you have ever been unemployed? Raise your hand. The room seems a little bit low on that. I was unemployed for 364 days. On the 65th day, I got a call. When I became unemployed, I was told I could receive unemployment. Great. The only problem to that equation was that on the first time when I got in, and I was told you're going to get food stamps, the food stamps was only going to be one time because your unemployment was $1,100, which is above the amount that we can continue to give you food stamps monthly. My rent was $900. My unemployment is $1,100. And I'm a mom. I need to survive. My child needs to eat. I need to live. At the time, I did not know that there's a child care council. Not even, because I didn't have that information. So I walked into the daycare center and I told the head of the daycare, I'm so sorry, but going forward, my son can no longer be here. She said, why? I don't have a job and I can't pay you. She said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to help you find resources. And she helped me find child care counsel. And my son stayed in. What was happening after then, I live in Mount Vernon. You couldn't be late on your rent because just one late, you're getting a visit. I didn't have cable. I didn't have a cell phone. I had nothing. What I would do, however, is every time my son went to daycare, I had $1. That means that I was able to get an hour on the Mount Vernon Library computer. So I would walk from my apartment to the library every single day. And I would pay my 25 cents and I applied for jobs. Please understand, they can't call me because I don't have a phone number. What they did, they had to email. So I would have to wait until they responded back. I got interviews. They were wonderful until a couple of things. One, they realized that I speak English very well. Or the person interviewing me, one said to me, I can't hire you because you're going to take my job. You're overqualified. So what I did was that I took a position when it was offered. I did not care. I needed a job. So when I said to you 364, and that one day when I got that email, yes, I'll take it. Was it good money? Not really. But it was more than I was getting through unemployment. So when the question is asked now saying, what can you do? Open the door. Give opportunities. Be fair. Be respectful. And know that we are all trying here. We are all trying. You might not have been unemployed, but you can help somebody today. Think about the salaries that you're paying. We heard earlier that nonprofit Westchester and United Way, they've gotten their $20 and above. When you have a moment today, review your salary. Review your minimum. Because if it's 4 at $27,000, and the child care in Mount Vernon right now, according to the statistics, a child below 2 years and below, to raise a child annually is $18,000. My son is 17, eats way much more than I do. Think about what you could be doing for families like mine.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. What an inspiration for us all. And thank you. Thank you so much. Jan, you wanted to say something?
I do want to add something to that, which I know is very risky coming after my friend Michelle, but we have a lot of conversations among government, business, and nonprofits about a $15 minimum wage and how it's not doable, how it will hurt our community. It will not hurt our community. We have to put our brains together. We have to find a way to stop saying we can't do it, it's going to hurt too many. It is not going to hurt. We can find a way to do it, and we have to start having very, very real conversations about, again, the lifeblood of our communities, and not just nonprofit people, people who work in restaurants, people who provide childcare, people who do so many jobs. We're a smart community. We're a smart society. We can and should do better. And the conversations have to stop being, we can't afford to do this, and they have to start being, we must do this. Let's come together. Let's all the sectors come together and find a way to respect people and pay them what they're worth.
That's
so
great.
they can live and thrive in our society.
That's great, Jan. Thank you for that. I do want to, I know we're running out of time. I do want to just close with one last question for Taryn. And Taryn, we know that MGM joined the Westchester community in 2019, although Yonkers Raceway has been there forever. I just was wondering, from your perspective, if you've seen any change in the retention rate of employees and what you're doing to improve the quality of life as a major employer in the largest city in Westchester and the third largest city in our state.
Thank you for reminding me that I get paid every day. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. It is true, MGM Resorts acquired Empire City Casino. And it's an incredible company. I think we're very fortunate to have them in New York. And I will say that in terms of the conversation around Alice and the employee needs of just workforces throughout the county, MGM came in and did an analysis of our operations and realized pretty quickly not only that they're paying like 70% tax rate when they're paying 8 or 6% in New Jersey and Vegas, but also that a lot of our team members were working 2 and 3 jobs. And so they were like, well, why is that the case? That's not the case at any of our other properties. And so they ended up doubling the wages for most of our employees, which, you know, took an annual payroll of $45 million to over $80 million a year. And it wasn't because, you know, they were just rolling in money and like throwing it around, right? That's not how it worked. It was an investment. It's an investment in the workforce, because without that incredible workforce developing and providing that hospitality service to their customers, they were never going to get more customers and never going to be able to grow. And so that's great company. Cheers, MGM. I love them. You should all support them, right? But that's not what we're here about today. We're here about how do we all, right? I'm not in the C-suite of MGM sitting in Vegas, but how do we all play a role in this? And I would say it's not just the CEOs. I don't think it's just the CEOs. I think it's everybody who has an opportunity to collaborate with your employees and your colleagues and, you know, weigh in on a review, advocate for a salary bump, and resources. Where are those resources? You know, I sat in a clinic with my daughter who, you know, thank God is 32 and I am not feeding a 17-year-old. But, you know, I remember sitting in that clinic with her trying to get her shots for school, and there was no information in that clinic. I had no insurance, I had no job, but there was no information for me on anything, not about legal services that I definitely needed at that time, not about resources, not about healthcare, job, nothing. What about the train that I sat in, commuting for an hour and a half every day on that subway? Why isn't that completely covered with resources for New Yorkers? So I would challenge everybody here today to look around you, pay attention, find the opportunity, right? It might not hit you in the head with a brick, but find the opportunity to do something, whether it's supporting a nonprofit, being engaged in your community, supporting the people around you, ensuring that there's resources in your workplace. All of it. Go after all of it, because it is really incumbent upon each of us to take that on as our own personal responsibility, because we are the people that are going to lift up the people around us.
What a great way to close today's program. I just want to give a round of applause for these women of distinction that we've had here today. You're all incredible.